Hello, and welcome to the Raw Food Health Empowerment Podcast, where we delve into the powerful benefits of a holistic, high raw vegan lifestyle for achieving optimal health, brain function, and overall well being. But it's not just about personal health, we're also passionate about community development and creating a culture of health through business and collaboration. Join us as we explore the intersection of raw food, holistic health, and community building to empower ourselves and others to live our best lives. I'm your host, Samantha Salmon, certified integrative nutrition coach, and today we are talking about how to stop stress eating. So I have a blog on rawfoodmealplanner.com now called Stop Stress Eating Now 10 Solutions to Regain Control of Your Eating Habits and Reduce Anxiety. And we're going to talk about just a few one of the tips in that blog from my personal experience. But before we get started, I want to let you know about some helpful resources on rawfoodmealplanner.com. Are you looking to boost your overall health and well-being? Two powerful ways to achieve this are by diversifying your gut microbiome and practicing intermittent fasting. Your gut microbiome is essential to various bodily functions, including digestion, metabolism, immune system function, and even mental health. By diversifying it, you can promote a healthy balance of bacteria, which can lead to improved digestion, stronger immunity, and better mood and brain function. That's why we've created a handy checklist on how to diversify your gut microbiome, which you can access for free. So just go to rawfoodmealplanner.com and you'll see a link for it right on the homepage. Another fantastic way to improve your health is by practicing intermittent fasting. It's been shown to aid in weight loss, improve insulin sensitivity, reduce inflammation, and enhance brain function. These are all the reasons why I have been doing it for years, but getting started can be overwhelming. That's why we've also created a helpful strategy sheet called Fasting Made Easy in 7 Steps. It provides practical steps for reducing stress, improving sleep, and staying motivated, making it simpler for you to stick to an intermittent fasting routine and enjoy the benefits. By downloading these resources, you'll gain valuable insights and actionable strategies to help you achieve your health goals and live a happier, and healthier life. So why wait? Start your journey to a healthier you today. Go to rawfoodmealplanner.com and you'll find these resources right on the homepage. So on to today's episode. We're talking about stress eating. And I'll just speak, I have 10 tips already, well actually more 10 insights, and then each of them have at least 2 or 3 tips. So you can read more on the blog. But I did want to talk about my personal experience with this, with emotional eating or stress eating. Typically, this has historically come up with work situations where work is really stressful and the brain doesn't have much left. The energy is gone and really disinterest starts to creep in on the work, right? No matter how much you love your job, there are elements, I think, to everyone's work that we just do not enjoy, right? Even this podcast, I can tell you, like, I like doing this podcast. There are elements I do not enjoy, depending on my mood, certain elements call for a time when your brain doesn't want to work on creativity and just wants to do admin rote function, and there's elements of that that's necessary for each podcast episode production. Then there's the creative portion, coming up with the topic, writing the content, and then there's the energetic, high energy portion, which is recording the content, actually recording the podcast. As a INFJ, if anyone's familiar with the Myers-Briggs, I'm a INFJ. and empath, highly sensitive person, which probably a lot of you who can relate to this would know that based off of, the work that I do and how I present. But there are times, there are ebbs and flows where I, prefer to kind of go within, do deep reading, study, and reflection, introspection. And when I'm in that phase, I like to be inward, not outward facing. And then there are times when my throat chakra feels really active, and I can get on here and just spit. And then I'm listening to the recording and I'm like, I'm not sure if I'm gonna release all of this. I gotta do some major editing. But yeah, stress, I'm pretty sure most of us have dealt with this. I mean, I've met a couple people who don't have this kind of relationship with food, where if they feel stressed, they're going to eating. They'll typically do something else, like pull hair out, like literally pull hair out, or they'll dig into their fingernail, like the flesh around their fingernail beds. Different people have different ways of coping with stress, right? So I've historically had this, and how I have managed. So the intermittent fasting has really helped me a lot, because in my head, it's kind of like, I don't know if you're familiar with this woman. I'm blanking on her name right now, but she is in my industry. She has a book out called Bright Line Eating, and she talks about, her experience. I believe she had like a drug addiction or something like this, and then when she got over the drugs, it turned into a food addiction. And in her journey of losing weight, that's where she came up with her modality of bright line eating, where you just have these bright lines, right? Like this, and I can't remember all the intricacies on it because it's been years since I've read that book, but the same concept applies to my experience with intermittent fasting and how it's helped me. Before intermittent fasting, I would call myself a glutton, which is one of the 10 sins, 10 deadly sins, right? And I consider myself a Christian. I was having digestive issues and constantly feeding myself, and understanding the scientific studies about how that's affecting me. Like every time you put food in, it doesn't matter what the food is, right? Insulin is spiking every time. And the more you eat, the quicker you die, actually, because your body literally oxidizes. So all this input of information that kind of affirmed, not only is this a deadly sin to be a glutton, spiritually or religiously, but scientifically, it's actually not helping my body. It's affecting my digestive system. I wasn't having great sleep because of it. And so practicing intermittent fasting allowed me to put in those bright lines, which were the guardrails. It was just like, okay, the kitchen is closed at this time, to allow me a better quality of sleep at night. When I have better quality of sleep at night, I have better quality of life the next day, right? Because all of it is connected. And so when you decide, at least for me, when I make a decision, and I would encourage all of you, if you have a health goal or any goal, you make a decision on that goal. And so that becomes a priority. And everything you do, you're asking yourself, is this serving my goal at this time, right? And so when, let's say it's the middle of the day, 3 o'clock. 3 o'clock is usually when my fasting period ends, unless I started late with my eating and maybe I didn't open up my feast period till later. But 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, you wanna eat something, you wanna snack on something because you got an email from a boss that pissed you off, or a family member pissed you off, or something is triggering you. And, you know, your body's intuition is to soothe that stress, frustration, anger, whatever is coming up with food to make it feel better. Now, from my personal experience, the data shows it, books have been written on this. Food is not a really good soother of anything. It doesn't solve any problems. And in my case, it was only causing problems, digestive issues and things like this. There's good food, but the good food needs to be eaten at the right time, right? And so if it's beyond my feasting period and I'm now in my fast period and I'm getting this emotional disturbance and I don't want to use food, right, to soothe, I have to actually deal with the emotion and come up with other ways to soothe what's harming me. And I find that intermittent fasting, along with different cleanses and detoxes, are great opportunities to really develop emotional intelligence, because this is what that is. Like, regardless of what you're doing in life and what diet you are on, you are always going to be confronted with different energies and different personalities and different situations that disrupt your spirit, and have to figure out ways to cope and maneuver in the world with that. And so it's an opportunity really that God presents us to develop our emotional intelligence. And so for me, my tools have always been books, professionals, and coming up with different techniques and modalities. And I've tried different things. I've tried Tai Chi, Qigong, meditation, singing and dance, all the things that make me feel good. And what I had to do to really nip stress eating in the bud was dial up that self-care. So that meant enforcing boundaries more strongly for the things that was making me stressed, right? So I had to get really good at my self-care practice in order to stop the stress eating, right? So that, in a nutshell, is basically my journey with this. And I would love to hear from you all. Like, if you are struggling with stress eating, clearly there's some reflection that needs to be done. Sitting with yourself, journaling, talking to a professional if needed, and creating a self-care practice that allows you to not stress in the first place, right? Because that's like the main part of stress eating, is the stress. So getting that under control. I think ultimately too, what the goal for me, and I feel like it should be the goal for many people, is to find ourselves emotionally, energetically in an equilibrium where we are like the rock, we are the rock in the stream. The water is going in any direction it wants to go. The wind around us is going in any direction it wants to go, but we are stable, and we're not moved, and so I think, Thich Nhat Hanh, I've been reading a lot of Thich Nhat Hanh and those types of things, constantly working on myself, because even if you're not stress eating, like for me, the journey of eliminating stress completely, which I don't know that is even possible. It's probably like, if for those of you who remember math, I think it's a parabola or something like that, where it goes up in the graph. It never touches the X or Y axis. It never touches. It gets close, but it goes up to infinity and it never touches, right? And I feel like stress is one of those things. We're going to deal with it. There will be a time, regardless of how good you get at this. I think probably the monks are the best at it, but at the same time, they put themselves in an environment where they're not triggered. At least from my perspective. I've never been a monk, and I've never been amongst them for any period of time where I could even really make a claim like that. But just from far away, they seem to be, not bothered by anything. But if you put yourself in a situation where there's nothing to bother you, then of course you're not going to be bothered, And if we all lived in a bubble by ourselves and didn't have to relate and convene with anybody else, then we probably wouldn't be bothered. There would be other things that bother us, maybe like loneliness, depression, isolation, those types of things, right? So it's a constant work and a constant play of this balance of just understanding ourselves, understanding the people around us enough to get to a place where we are not moved. We are not bothered. We're not stressed. We have stability emotionally, energetically within ourselves. So we're not reaching for unhealthy foods. We're not reaching for unhealthy habits because of other people, right? If other people are causing you to destroy your own self, that says a lot. That says a lot. For me personally, that is allowing other people to have control over me, which I'll never have that happen. You know what I'm saying? I say a lot to my friends around me that, you know, I waited my whole childhood to be free, to be a whole adult with agency. So now I'm an adult. There's no way I'm going to give up my power to someone else to have control over me and to have control over my body and how it's feeling. So, yeah, it's a constant work in progress of just taking control. That's a top value for me is freedom and agency, right? So I hope this episode was helpful for you on your health and wellness journey. And I would love to hear your comments about this topic of stress eating. What has helped you? What do you still struggle with? And you can take that over to the blog in the comments section. Read through some other techniques. I shared here my personal experience in hopes that it can help you. But there's definitely more you can dig deeper into on the blog. And the thing is, too, a lot of times we take in information, but we don't make it our own. We don't make it a practice. We're like, oh, I know that, and I love, there's a coach, a health coach, and of course I'm blanking on her name. Her name is Lisa, but it's a 3-part name. And I can't remember the other 2 parts of her name, but her name is Lisa, and I follow her on social media. She and I'm here on Instagram now, just trying to scroll through to see if I could find her real quick, but Instagram's funny like that. You can't always find people. But she said something that I really felt deeply. She was like, you can't keep saying you know something and you've never really done it. You have no personal experience. Just because you heard something and you read something does not mean you know it. And so, like, we all read about stress eating, but I could say that I know this because, and I know and understand the journey because I've been there and I've had to overcome it. And there's more to it than that. Like, for me personally, I made many changes to my diet to a point where it's like really fine-tuned and it's working for everything. My body, my metabolism, my energy, my mood, my brain health, like everything I've really fine-tuned because it was a focus. And I treat myself like a lab. I pay attention to what works and what doesn't work. And part of this journey, it was, not snacking, like eliminating snacks, focusing on meals. So you're satisfied, you're fully nourished, and also drinking lots of water. And so it's a constant coaching of yourself because especially when you're getting triggered and you're forced, like if it's work that's triggering you, you're stuck at work. You can't just leave the situation even though it's bothering you. So you have to figure out what to do in that moment without reaching for food. So I wish you all the best on this journey, and I look forward to hearing more about how you are navigating stress eating.